Welcome, friends, to day 16 of 25 days of visibility. I'm visibility and community.
Let's go.
Yes, friends, we have a live audience. Y'all, that's my husband. This is why I tell him all the time, when I'm in this office, you need to leave because he has no behavior. Now, let me get back to 25 days of visibility. It's day 16. I'm Visibility and Communications Strategist, ROSHANDA PRATT. So glad that you are here. Listen, while they are still available, if you have missed any of the previous days, week 1, we started to lay a foundation. Week 2, we got strategic. And week 3, we're getting tactical. If you have missed any of the replays, I would beseech you, therefore, brethren, to go check out the replay right now on my YouTube channel, Visibility is Power TV. Again, YouTube, Visibility is Power TV. As you're coming in, say hello to me, whether you're watching this live or in the replay. If you are here in the replay, make sure to hashtag replay so that way I can see you. I'm just going to double check because I know yesterday we were having some issues and I wasn't able to get or see comments in real time. And so I like to engage with you guys. So let me make sure that it's all good and that we're live and I'm able to see your comments. All right, let me just double check. We are live and we are good. All right, let's go. So today we are getting into a very interesting topic. Today, yesterday I showed you how to prep for live video with my 5-step process, bulleted script method, and pre-show checklist. And a lot of you enjoyed that content, right? Even gave you a challenge to go live. One of the things that I know that comes out of that experience is that there are people who would ask me things like, ROSHANDA, I have this system now, but do I have it? Do I have executive presence? ROSHANDA, you seem so natural on camera. What if I'm not like that? What if I'm too quiet or too direct or too me? I've been told that a lot in my life. You're too whatever. And I often say, if I'm too much, go find less elsewhere. So today I'm addressing this head on because there's a myth about executive presence that's really keeping brilliant leaders just like you invisible. Today, we're going to destroy that myth. So today, we're talking about the executive presence myth, why you already have what it takes. As you're coming in, say hello to me, and let's get started. So let me tell you about the myth. Executive presence is a personality type. You ever heard that? Ever thought that? You either have it or you don't. And if you have it, you're confident, you're charismatic, you're assertive, you're warm, strategic, visionary. Basically, you're a unicorn. And if you're not naturally extroverted, if you're not the loudest voice in the room, if you don't command attention the moment you walk in, then you don't have executive presence. Anybody has experienced that? Anybody encounter that? I want you to go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay? Put that in the chat. All right? That's a myth. And I'm really here to tell you it's straight garbage. Because here's what really happens. Scenario 1, you have the chameleon. Someone reads an article about executive presence. The article says executives are confident, assertive, and commanding. So they try to be that. They change their voice, they change their posture, they change their entire personality. And it feels fake because it is fake. You can't perform your way into executive presence. You really can't. Scenario 2 is the imposter. Someone looks at leaders they admire. They're all extroverted, charismatic, loud. And they think, I'm not like that. I'm quieter, more reserved, more analytical. I must not have executive presence. So they stay small. They don't go for the promotion. They don't speak up in meetings. They don't build visibility because they believe the myth. And scenario 3, the invisible expert. Someone is an expert. They know their stuff, but they're not flashy. They're not a natural performer. And they get passed over for the person who looks the part, even though the person knows less. And they think, see, I don't have executive presence. Here's the problem with all 3 of these scenarios. They believe that executive presence is a personality type. And folks, it is not a personality type. What it is, it's a skill. And it's a skill that can be learned. So let me tell you the truth about executive presence as I see it. Executive presence is not about being a certain way. Executive presence is about communicating clearly, consistently, and confidently in your authentic style. So let me break that down. Here's a couple of principles that I want you to lean in. Principle number 1, executive presence is plural, not singular. There is not a one type of executive presence, right? So let me share a couple of real examples. We have Sheryl Sandberg, who used to be the former Meta COO. She's warm, data-driven, collaborative, and leads through connection. Then there's Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, reserved, detail-oriented, operational, not flashy. And then we have the queen of daytime talk, Oprah, expressive, emotional, relational, and builds intimacy at scale. See the difference? Sheryl is not Tim, Tim is not Oprah. And yet all of them have executive presence. Why? Because executive presence is not about one personality type. It's about mastering your communication style. So right there, if you're having a major aha moment while you're watching this live or in the replay, I want you to drop the mind blown emoji in the comment section. If you're just tuning in, this is 25 days of visibility. I'm ROSHANDA PRATT, visibility and communications strategist, empowering you to be seen, heard, and paid. And today we're talking about the executive presence myth. Principle number 2, executive presence is about clarity, not charisma. And here's what people mistake executive presence: charisma, volume, being an extrovert. But that's not what executive presence is. That's just loud. Real executive presence is clarity. You can articulate your point in 30 seconds or less. Consistency. People know what you stand for. Confidence. You trust your gut. You trust your expertise. You don't have to be the loudest to do that, but you do need to be the clearest. So, for example, you have person A, talks for 5 minutes, uses big words, circles the point, sounds impressive. Person B talks for 30 seconds, uses simple language, states the point directly. So, who has executive presence? I'd say person B. Why? Because executives don't have time for noise. Leaders don't have time for noise. They need clarity. And if you can say something in 30 seconds, what someone takes 5 minutes to say, you, my friend, have executive presence. Principle 3, executive presence is not performance. Here's the mistake that people make. They try to perform executive presence. They try to put on a persona. Sometimes that's not even them, and it doesn't work. Why? Because people can feel when you're not being authentic. So being authentic really speaks to alignment between who you are and how you show up. When you do that, your words match your values, your energy matches your personality, and your presence feels real, not rehearsed. I'm seeing some chat in the comments. Carlin is here. Thank you so much. She just dropped the mind blown emoji. Yes, so true, my friend. Loud and wrong often. So true. Nathalie is here, watching also from LinkedIn, and says executive presence is plural. Indeed, my friend, it is. So, when people think about an introvert trying to be extroverted, you can feel exhausted and it often looks forced. An introvert owning their introvertism, did I say that? An introvert owning the fact that they're an introvert means they process internally before they speak. And when they do speak, it's intentional. And that's executive presence. Listen, my husband is one of these people. If you've ever read the 5 love language, you'll know I'm the babbling brook. He's the Dead Sea. And if you read the book, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. And so oftentimes people will challenge him in leadership positions and say, oh, you need to speak more. You need to go around and hobnob and rub shoulders with people. But what people don't understand is my husband's very intentional about the words that come out of his mouth. And when he speaks up, it is gold, right? He doesn't waste words. He's not throwing words around, right? And I think sometimes we can do introverts really dirty because we're like, well, why aren't you an extrovert? You need to be more extroverted. And sometimes we need to tell the extrovert, you know what? You need to pipe down and be more introverted. You need to read the room, right? An analytical person trying to be warm and fuzzy, it feels fake. But an analytical person owning their style, I lead with data. And here's what the numbers tell us. That's executive presence. For me, I'm a feeler. And for many, many years in many leadership capacities, I've been told, you feel too much and you need to get emotional intelligence and blah, 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 blah. I was vilified for being a feeler. But it works well in my marriage because my husband's the brain, I'm the heart. And there are times where it switches, but it works well when I'm in the room and I'm feeling the weight of what's happening in the room that someone may not feel powerful to step into their visibility and speak up. What am I basically saying to you? You don't need to change who you are. You just need to own who you are. Own who you are. Yeah, Rachel, I love that. Let me pop up that comment. I love that, Rachel. Thank you for being here. Rachel says, look at what Rachel says. She says, it's taken me years to learn that being an introverted leader is okay. Yes, it is. And every joint supplies. You know, we got a funny saying in our group. So my husband's best friend and one of my dearest friends, she married my husband's best friend. And my husband's best friend is me. He's the male version of me. There's always a good time. There's always a story. And we are very extroverted. But we balance each other out. And so we often laugh with each other when she has to talk to something with her husband. She says, Jacoby, how do you deal with this with ROSHANDA since I'm married to the male version, right? But the thing about it is all of us help each other, right? And so vilifying someone because they're not extroverted or vilifying someone because they are extroverted, we have to stop that and understand all of this helps to make the team better. Principle 4, executive presence is earned through reps, not granted by personality. So here's the good news. Executive presence is a skill, and skill improves with reps. So the first time you go live, it's going to be awkward. The 10th time, better. The 15th time, you're a natural and a pro. That's not because you suddenly got executive presence. It's because you did the reps. So think about it. No one is born knowing how to speak concisely, handle objections calmly, command a room, communicate with confidence. Those are all skills, and you build them the same way you build any skill. Practice, feedback, iteration, repeat. Practice, feedback, iteration, repeat. Executive presence isn't a gift, it's a craft. So here's the truth about executive presence. Principle one, executive presence is plural, not single. Many styles, not one. Principle two, executive presence is about clarity, not charisma. You can have charisma, but I think so often we've led with charisma and not really led with clarity. And while we've had people who are very charismatic, they lack intention, they lack character, they lack clarity. Principle three, executive presence is not performance. It's always authentic over being rehearsed. Principle four, executive presence is earned through reps, not granted by personality. So it's skill over gifting. The myth says you either have it or you don't. The truth is, you build executive presence by showing up as you consistently. So what does this mean for you? If you're an introvert, you don't need to be more extroverted. You just need to own being an introvert. For example, my husband's told me this. I'm an internal processor. I think before I speak. When I do speak, it's intentional. That, my friend, is executive presence. If you're naturally direct, you don't need to soften your edges. You need to own your directness, right? I value efficiency. Here's the issue. Here's the solution. Let's move. That's executive presence. Notice it doesn't talk about browbeating people, being rude and ugly and nasty. But there is a way that you can own being direct. If you're warm and relational, you don't need to become tougher. You need to own your relational skill, your relational strength. I lead through connection. I build trust, and trust drives results. That's executive presence. If you're analytical, you don't need to become more emotional. You need to own your analytical approach. Example, I make decisions based on data, and here's what the number tells us. That is executive presence. Do you see the pattern? Do you really see the pattern? You don't need to change. You need to claim. Claim your style. Claim your strengths. Claim your voice. That, friend, is how you build executive presence. So here's your assignment. I want you to answer the following 3 questions to define your executive presence. How do you show up in physical rooms, and how do you show up in these digital rooms online? Question number 1, what's my natural communication style? Are you direct, thoughtful, warm, analytical, strategic, detailed? Don't judge it, just name it. 2, what do people say that you're good at? When people compliment your leadership, what do they say? You're so clear. You're so calm under pressure. You make everyone feel seen and heard. You cut through the noise. That's your executive presence showing up. And question 3, what would I do if I fully owned my style? So if you stop trying to be someone else, what would you do differently? Would you speak up more? Would you speak up less? With more weight? Would you lead differently? I want you to write those down. And if you're feeling great, you can put those in the comment section. My executive presence style is X. What I want you to take away from this live is claim it, own it, and build from it. That is your executive presence. So that's the executive presence myth. And here's what I need you to hear. You don't need to be someone else. You don't need to change your personality. You don't need to perform. You really don't. You need to be you. And you is enough. I think we've been so taught that this is the framework and this is the style. And listen, if you've been with me here for the past 16 days. You know, I love a good framework like everyone else. I do. But the best you could ever be is you. You need to show up you clearly, consistently, confidently. Because executive presence is not being the loudest, being the most charismatic, being extroverted, or being a certain type. But executive presence is communicating with clarity, showing up consistently, owning your authentic style, building skill through reps. And my friend, you already have what it takes. You just need to stop waiting for permission. Consider today your permission. You have executive presence. Now go build visibility using that. Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are back and we're going even deeper. Tomorrow, we're talking about leading through change without losing your voice. There is a season of change and transitioning. If you feel that, let me know, all around us. And so we're going to talk about how to lead through uncertainty, through transition and disruption without losing yourself in the process. That is tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube and LinkedIn. So today, I want you to define your executive presence style and post it in the comments, own it, and start showing up as that person because you got this. All right, that is day 16 of the 25 days of visibility. Do me a favor, if you're not already doing so, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Visibility is Power TV. If this was helpful to you, listen, let me know. My messages and DM are open. And also share this with another leader who needs to be in this conversation. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm ROSHANDA PRATT, Visibility and Communications Strategist, empowering you to be seen, heard, and paid because your visibility is power. Your executive presence is power. See you tomorrow.